everybody, and welcome back. We have a special spotlight tonight on my friend, author and creator Sean Wood. Welcome, Sean.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's great to see you, man. I guess the last time we saw each other was in Baltimore, right? At the convention.
Yep. Oh yeah.
At the time, we were hooking up, and you were promoting your new book, and you got some new stuff on the horizon. We thought it would be a great time to sort of revisit and learn a little bit more about who you are and what you're doing. So, for those of us that haven't met before, Sean, tell us a little bit what you're mostly known for.
So my book is called The Fog Within. It's a dystopian sci-fi with some powers involved in it. And yeah, I started that last year as my first book and continued on with the same book.
Nice. Yeah, congratulations. I was one of the backers on that first project. I think your book looks terrific. I want to ask you, right? Kind of a hard market that you've jumped into, sci-fi. So I'm going to ask you, why science fiction? Why have you gone on that path?
That's just what I've always loved. I mean, I read pretty much any kind of comic, but that there's so much to play with, I think, in sci-fi that you're not bound by regular worldly rules. Anything can happen in sci-fi, so just a bigger sandbox, I think.
And how about, were you more influenced by sci-fi films or novels or comics? What sticks out to you as your influences?
I would say probably comics and movies about the same, really. Yeah, I mean, anything with those kind of big worlds, and it's just a bigger eye-opening type of experience. Like I said, just a bigger sandbox to play with and do anything. So yeah, that's always been cool to me.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So in your team that you built here for The Fog Within, you got some quality artwork. I'm going to show some samples here on the screen while we're talking. How did you find your teammates, and what kind of qualities do you look for in a teammate?
Yeah, so when I started, I really had no idea about any level of what to do in comics. I started basically back in December, just trying to figure out if I had a story to tell. And then after that, in January or so, January to February, I was really just dabbing on different Facebook groups, trying to find just quality work. There's definitely plenty of that out there. I wanted to go the more traditional feel. So I found
What do you mean
David,
by traditional?
the traditional like pencils instead of the digital.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I love digital as well, but I've just always been in love with those kind of
Pencils.
pencils. So
Yeah.
like Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane in the
Sure.
old like
Hmm.
90s, that's definitely my favorite stuff out there. So that's what I was looking for if it was possible in my budget. Um, so I found David after scouring for a couple months, and we just hit it off. His ideas that he brought to the table was has been insane. I'll draw like little stick figures now and again. He calls them matchsticks. My matchstick drawings,
Right, right.
and just to give him an idea of what I'm really picturing in my mind, and he just makes insane artwork from there.
He does great character designs.
Oh yeah,
One of our favorite things to do is at the beginning when, because a lot of times the characters aren't fully formed, right? And, he might come up with he's a visual artist. So the
yeah,
visual artist usually has a couple of little techniques to add to characters to make them stand out. So you have a
oh yeah,
very diverse kind of world, right? They have sort of and I mean this in the best sort of way, sort of like a G.I. Joe, like a roster
mhm,
of, I don't want to say heroes necessarily, but like they have a roster kind of, right? Would you say I
yeah,
describe that? Yeah. And
yeah.
what kind of influences led you to create it like that?
So my thought was, this world's a lot of the adults are missing. This catastrophic event has hurt the adults, and the kids were left on their own. So the adults were taken, and we don't know what happened to them. And that kind of pulls them out of like with the new names, so Alpha, Epsilon, Zeta, those kind of things with the elite rebels, kind of pulls them out of their experience or their being before they were in this world, so they don't have that emotion to it. They break away from that emotion basically. So that was the original idea behind those names, And actually, I didn't even think of G.I. Joe until you mentioned it when you're talking about the review for the first book, and it made complete sense.
And I hope, yeah, I hope I say that in the most complimentary way,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I dig stuff like that. And I
yeah.
guess a better way to say it these days is, when you talk about your world building and you have kind of like
Mhm.
these unique characters. And in your sense, I meant it's a little bit more like an ensemble cast, isn't it? It's like
Mhm.
it's like several characters that are kind of doing
Oh
their
yeah,
thing, which
yeah.
I like that. And there's well, and we'll keep the light on you, but I've met a couple creators who try to do that. One of the reasons why is, there's a lot of guys that have done really well with things like they made an action figure line, or,
Mhm.
what we do pretty well with the cards and that kind of thing. So once you get enough characters, you can kind of open up the stable for some merchandising. Do you have any
Yeah.
kind of merchandising dreams for The Fog Within? What is in your future?
So I have tried to dabble in for the book two. Book one, I just want to make sure I had the comic and I knew what I was doing when I was shipping, and I didn't do anything crazy. It was more just focused on the comic itself.
Right,
I did
make
do
the
a trading
book.
card.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
make the
exactly.
book, sure, yeah.
Just figure out all the processes and then go from there. I have created a standee for
Oh,
Hunter,
nice.
the main character.
That's kind of
That's
cool.
actually cool. Yeah. So I like the design. It came out. I haven't got it yet, but it is in the mail, coming to me soon. So that'll be cool. I'll have that on book two. I've got different trading cards. So the second one has Epsilon, the girl character, doing a crazy pose against the swarm. She's gonna be in that trading card.
Yeah, and you
And the
have
hollow
you
foil.
have a you do a Chrome trading card too, correct?
Yeah. Yeah,
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 that
yeah.
that
So
came out nice.
the
I have one of your
oh
Chrome
yeah.
cards. Yeah.
Yeah. I was really pleased. At first I was gonna do just the eyes, the red as like the red foil, but it wasn't gonna turn out right. So they
Yeah.
suggested Comics Wellspring to just do the whole thing, and it looks awesome. So
Yeah,
um
I've dabbled with some different like it's nice to have layers on the cards, but sometimes they're right when the whole card is just on the Chrome,
mm,
it looks epic,
yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
no matter what you put on there, it looks cool kind of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
But yeah,
true.
so I'm a little bit of a card collector. We do some a fairly large trading card line. But I guess in your case, how many trading cards are you going to do?
So I'm really just going to try to do probably one per book. But after a while, I'll have different ones to put together in the future. Because I am planning to do 12 issues.
Oh,
So it'll
nice.
be three arcs. So it'll be one story, and then it'll add to the next story, the next arc. So it'll still be together as one story, but it will
Yeah.
break apart.
That sounds
So
great,
each
man.
one.
That sounds great.
Yep.
Hey,
And
so we were talking a little bit about the merchandising, like the first thing is, look, I get it that it's something that we need to do, right? And I guess the hard question is we always want to make sure the customers are, of course, reading the book. At the end of the day, what we're doing is we're making a book. And I'm always concerned, or let me ask it this way. Do you ever have any concern that doing too much merchandise will draw attention away from reading the book?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the book is my priority. The merchandise, for one, like the cards and like I did this T-shirt actually. I didn't put on the first book,
That's
but
pretty cool,
that'll
man.
be on
That's
the
pretty
second
cool.
one. Yeah. So I have done some, and it's just been fun to do that kind of stuff. But I don't want to do too much though. Just so that it is focused on the actual writing and the story. That's really what I care about for
Right.
sure.
I worry about that. And by the way, I don't know what the answer is. I know that like all things, it's probably in the middle somewhere.
Right.
I don't know what the correct answer. I know that we have to do a fair amount of merchandising because that's how you, of course, make the dollars into being able to afford to make the next book. Depending on what kind of cycle you're on, I sense that you're a little bit more similar to me. You kind of make the book first and then you reimburse yourself out of the proceeds, right? Like I don't advance against any of the Kickstarters. Mine are pretty much done before I go in.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I'm trying to be. We're not done yet, but Dave is almost done with all of the pencils and inks. He's on page 20 as of today. And yeah, so hopefully everything will be colored, lettered, except for one page by the time Kickstarter starts. I'm actually
Nice.
doing the whole. I have a page. He did the inking and everything except for one panel of you can be added to the book.
Oh, nice.
So we're
Right. Yeah.
doing Yeah, we're being able to add 5 people into the book, and it'll even be colored for the Kickstarter, so you see exactly how it's gonna look, minus that one panel.
That's pretty
So
cool,
that'll be the
man.
only one that
I
won't be
think you'll
colored.
get some of those. That's always a fun thing. The customers like to see themselves, especially if they're being killed, or I don't know what you got going in
Oh,
your
yeah.
panels there,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you can always make
yeah,
something that's pretty cool.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I guess I would want to ask you this. So this is your second Kickstarter's coming up, right?
Mhm, yep.
So what kind of strategies are you first tell us what your goal is, and then what kind of strategies you're going to use to get to your goal.
Yeah, so the goal is gonna be still the same as the first one, 2,500. Um, so with that, I have changed some of the pricing that I saw that I had out of whack for the first one, just compared to what everybody else is doing. So I think that'll help me get more backers. Like the digital will be $5, which I didn't do before. It makes more sense because it allows more people to see the book. Definitely want more people to see it than less.
Right, right.
So that and strategies trying to find people. I mean, I'm really marketing more on Twitter. I have more of an audience there. But I started my Twitter as soon as I started writing the book. So I've never really done social media before all the comic stuff. So I'm all over Facebook now. Before I wasn't. But I've tried to do some Facebook ad stuff. I haven't seen a whole lot of return on that. It is complicated. Um, but I'm trying to just get it out there, give it to other creators, the first book digitally, to try to add to their tiers so more people see it that way. Um, doing trying to do an ad on another comic.
Yeah, hey,
Um,
I
yeah,
think it's a great idea. I do that one too.
yeah,
That was one of the things that I
yeah, yeah.
definitely wanted to offer because, well, certain kinds of people, as you've noticed out there in indie creator land, they kind of stick together and they're trying to. We don't have all the answers, but we're trying to do something.
Right.
Do
Oh
you
yeah.
know those guys from Comicsburg, Marvin Wynn and Grant Lankard?
Mm-mm. No, I haven't seen them.
They're out of Pittsburgh and they have like a informal alliance they got going. I'm going to be linked up with them for Comics Pro, some diamond something. It's something
Okay.
some professional networking type of gig that I think you would benefit from some kinds of those things. But
Yeah,
as far
yeah.
as yeah, new strategies, man, hopefully we'll get some traction on this video out there on YouTube land. So, I know readers want to learn a little bit more about you, right? That's one of the things that we try to do on these interviews. And I kind of want to know, who are some of the influences that were yours when you were growing up? Was there a certain writer that you followed or artist? What kind of media were you taking in?
Yeah. So back when I was growing up, like early '90s, I would say it was more just like the eye popping, the art was like Jim Lee, Tommy Farland, all of
Sure.
Image when it first started. I was definitely looking at Spawn when I was way too young to be looking at Spawn. Uh, but that was my huge thing. And then it fell off for a little while, in teenage years. But when I actually, funny enough, when I got married, I was 20, and down the street, there was a comic shop that I went to when I was a kid. And really, the first thing I did was I moved in and we went over to the comic book store, just trying to see what was going on. And then I've been hooked ever since.
Nice.
So I mean, my Wednesday pull list is sometimes a little too insane, but my wife is okay with it, so that's all that matters.
So you're a
So,
collector too, would you say?
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I probably have myself probably around 10,000 comics
Oh wow, no
that I've
kidding.
really only been collecting since 15 years or so.
Nice.
Um, and with my dad, he really started it all when I was young, because in the '60s all the way up to probably about mid '90s, he was collecting.
Nice.
And so all the best books you can possibly think of, Marvel, DC, when Image came out, all of those, he had all of those, and sometimes two or three, because everything could be a collectible. So he would buy those
Right, right,
every week.
sure.
So I could look at anything I wanted to, like
Nice.
especially my favorite back then was anything X-Men, all
Oh,
the crazy
sure. Yeah.
storylines from the '70s, '80s.
Yeah, probably
Um,
when the X-Men were
yeah,
at their peak.
yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I definitely X-Men's definitely been my biggest one over the years since kid till now for sure.
So let's swing back over to comics, right? So we see that you've got some inspiration there, but when do you say, you know what? I want to make my own book. What was the inspiration that made you say, I'm going to try this?
Yeah. So I really, I really didn't think it was an option to be a writer or create your own comics. Like I see people at cons all the time, but I was like, oh wow, they must have a ton of money or they're making tons of money. There's no way I could ever do something like that. And really, the first thing that made me think that I could do it was I started collecting The Walking Dead Deluxe.
Mm.
And I had all the ones in black and white, but I just wanted to see the color. But also in the back of the book, Robert Kirkman gave his outline, like just one sentence outline for each page out of every single book that he did. And he
Huh.
explained what he was thinking at the time. And I was like, oh, wow, that it's that easy to start out. It's just
Wow,
making
that's
a very
interesting.
simple, yeah, very simple outline. And then it just seemed insane to me. So I was like, okay. And then a couple months later, I'm a runner as well. So I like trained for marathons a couple times now and stuff. And I was running one morning on a Saturday and it was foggy. And that's how all this book started, was basically I ran through fog and I said, huh, that'd be interesting if when I ran through, all of a sudden I was in the future. And what would that look like? And then my
Uh,
mind didn't stop. And that's how I started. And then I went to do different Substack classes for writing with Brian Michael Bendis and Scott Snyder. They both had really good classes and still have the classes. And I learned so much just of the basics of how to do and how to start and the whole process of the business side and everything like that. And I just ran it from there.
it's nice. Those are the master classes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a little
You
bit
know,
familiar with them. So, so you were in both of them?
yeah, I
Oh,
still
nice.
am. So Brian had really every 2 weeks for almost the first year. There was a class about an hour and a half long or so, and I would just watch it after the fact. Sometimes if it's too late, I can't really stay up that late all the time.
Hmm.
But I watched all of them on demand. Same thing with Scott's class, and then really after I did the year with Scott, I was talking to one of the guys in the class that I met in Baltimore actually, and he was talking about, am I going to do the one-on-ones with Scott Snyder? And
Hmm.
so I wasn't going to do it because it's a little more costly, but um, it would just be cool to do. So I signed up for it, and I've been talking to Scott actually every month since October, once a month. Actually, I talked to him tomorrow about the pitch outline because he wanted me to do the entire pitch for the entire 12 issues with him and to try to help me
Sure,
out do
man.
something with it. We'll see.
Absolutely. I think
So
it's a great idea, man. Build critical buzz around your book, man. This is all genius. I think your second Kickstarter is going to be very successful. I do want to ask you this question. So now you got one under your belt, right? You got the first one
mhm.
finished. What did you learn
Yep.
from the experience what is something you would go back and tell yourself, 2 years ago, or to somebody that was just starting for their first time? Something you didn't know before that you learned through the process.
So there's probably, I would say, do your research on online. So on like your show, Creative Cranium. I've learned so much from things like that. To just learn the basics, to know before going into it. So really, I was learning everything in real time. So like when David started penciling, I wouldn't know how to go to the next step, like what to do. So I would find out, okay, we need to do probably all the scans at 600 DPI, and then I know it's going to be 300 DPI when you actually go to Comics Wellspring with the book, and just really
Right.
details like that is definitely needed. And really one thing that I didn't think about, I just love seeing the art was, and it's really not that big of a deal, but it's more of for me is I want all the books, all the covers to look the same, with the title being at the top and the names underneath. Whereas I didn't have the placement because I didn't mention it to whoever was doing the cover art, to leave that space. So now I
Yeah,
know,
that's a
hey,
good
can we
one.
leave
Yeah.
this space? And
Sure. Yeah.
yeah, just
Absolutely.
small things like that. Um,
Those are
and,
some
and
good
now I
ones, man. Yeah,
know,
those are
so
some
like,
good ones.
yeah. So like another big thing too that I learned that I wish I knew right away was when I did the script, everyone says there's not really a regular way of doing a script for comics. There is in doing it for movies, but not for comics. You can do it any way you like. But then you go to the letterer and they say, oh, there's actually a way of doing it and do it this kind of spacing. And it makes it easier. They can just copy and paste and, format it the way it's needed. And it also looks a lot cleaner. So I had to
Yeah.
go back and redo my entire script once it was already done for the letterer. So now it was just easy. I knew the right format
Yeah.
to go from there for the next issues. So
I usually leave a little bit of interpretation for the letterer too, because they might have, like they might have some cool idea that you didn't think of. You know what I mean? So as long as it's
oh yeah,
not, terribly story altering, I like to give everybody a little rope, as it were.
yeah.
So,
Another
Sean,
thing
what kind
too with
of?
that,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. I was gonna say, one thing too that was big was you always hear about the Marvel way or the what's it called? The full script.
Right. Yeah.
So I didn't really know how to write the script for David even of how he would want it. So I left it loose, the Marvel way, but he wanted it more full script. And I've noticed there's a lot, most people nowadays are wanting more full script than
Right.
big
Yeah.
interpretation for it. So
Right.
that made it easier once I knew that too.
Yeah, I tend to lean more toward the full script, and I even do all the camera angles and that kind of thing. And it's not because one's not necessarily better than the other, but in our case, a lot of times you might be talking to somebody who English is not their first language. So the more description you have, like there's many things that can give off a visual cue. You got to give him all the tools possible to be able to represent whatever the visual cue. And I always do the full script, but at the top we have the thing, the beat it says, and basically this is what's going on this page, like a one
Yeah,
sentence version. Yeah.
that makes
And
sense.
then the full version is underneath. But it's always divided out, and here's basically on the page, because that helps the rhythm of the story. You know what I mean? If they're doing page 7 to 13, things aren't always in order.
Right. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
So how long did it take to make number one? Pencils, colors, everything.
Yeah, so with everything for the number one, it did take longer than I expected. With pencils, I mean, he probably did it in 2.5 months or so, maybe three
Okay.
months, because he's doing other books as well at the same time. So it's
Right.
really like 2 or 3 pages every week that he would do. With inks, we hit a snag a little bit because I was trying to figure it out as I went. So we had really two different guys that did the inks on the first one. But now we've narrowed it down for the second one where David actually wanted to do traditional inks as well on the book. So now I have him doing the pencils and the inks.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Gotcha. Gotcha.
looking, yeah, and it's looking amazing too. And really it's insane that what he does because he's doing the pencils, showing me how, if I like the whole setup and everything. And
Sure.
once I approve it, he's doing the inks, pencils and inks in the same day.
Yeah, he's
Whereas
fast.
before
He's
it would
fast. Yeah.
be, yeah. So before it was the pencils one day and then the inks another day from whoever was doing the inking at the time and then colors another day. So it's definitely streamlined the process. So he's almost done um, the pencils and inks. It'll probably be about 2.5 months when he's complete with both of those stages, which makes my life a lot easier too, because that's just one less thing I have to worry about.
Gotcha.
Um, but with the first book overall, it probably took honestly 6 months because I was still each step
That's
trying to
pretty
find the
good for
next
your first
person when I
one.
got
That's
there.
pretty good for your
Yeah,
first one.
thank you. And I was very adamant that I really wanted to be mostly done by the time the Kickstarter happened. So I was really trying to talk about my book since really January when I just started the entire process. And I
Right.
didn't do the Kickstarter until mid-August. Yeah, mid-August.
Gotcha.
And I didn't
Gotcha.
do the pre-launch until June or so. So I was trying to amp up everything. Yeah.
And let's
Yeah.
see. So, depending on when this episode airs, what is the launch date for The Fog Within 2?
So two should be around March 12th.
Okay.
So I'll be open from March 12th to I think I clocked it at April 19th or something around that.
Okay. Perfect. And can you tell us a little bit about who will love that book?
Yeah. So of course anything sci-fi dystopian. Really what I like to think of it is around is it's like you said, G.I. Joe meets X-Men in the apocalypse with uh, with more dystopia, and that's the big thing. But there's shows like Arcane on Netflix. I think of it that way, that kind of tone to it. Um, and yeah, Blade Runner. It's not in the city type escape of Blade Runner, but still sort of that feel at times. Um, Anything futuristic, just in general. That's really, and like I said, X-Men was definitely a big Ninja Turtles family dynamic wise. Not really Ninja Turtles in general, but when I was thinking of the characters in on the Rebels side, I was thinking more of their family type dynamic and how they play off of each other.
Nice. Yeah, this sounds terrific. And what kind of rewards will we see on this current Kickstarter?
Yep. So I'll have a standee of Hunter from the first cover for number two that I took out of that. I have this shirt. I'm gonna do a metal cover at least of one of the books. I'm not
Oh,
sure if I
nice.
might do all three. Yeah, and then the trading card. Um, I'm gonna try to do some more like a digital package of some other creator stuff.
Nice.
Um, and I think that's probably about it. I might oh, also like I mentioned before, the page where you can be added as a rebel.
That's
So
cool.
that'll be pretty cool. So it'll be 5 spots for that, and I'll have the page on there showing kind of what the pose really is sort of going to be, but it can be changed depending on who wants to be a rebel.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Well, man, I sure wish you every success with this Kickstarter, Sean. I'm a believer in this product, and I got to recommend it. I think it's cool because I like the ensemble cast. I think that's something not a lot of books have right now, and I think it makes yours a little bit different. So, viewers, I'm recommending The Fog Within. That's going to be March 12th or so. It'll be launching, right? So,
Yep.
hopefully, right about the time this video will be live. And in closing, Sean, can you just tell the viewers where we can find you and find your material?
Yep. So on the socials, I'm Sean Wood _writer. Like my name is on here, pretty much everywhere. TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and yeah, that's pretty much where you can find me at the moment.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. And like I say, we wish you every success, and I'll be rooting for this one.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Good night, everybody.